Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving straight into the deep end, right at the beginning of the Bible, the first 11 chapters of Genesis. This isn't just some ancient history. It's a foundational story about God's relationship with, well, the entire world. And this whole story really gets started by asking a question I think we've all felt deep down at some point. Why? Why do we live in a world that is so obviously beautiful and good, but at the same time is just filled with so much pain, conflict, and tragedy? Well, Genesis 1 through 11 offers this really powerful, ancient answer to that very modern feeling. It tells a story that tries to explain the fundamental nature of our world and, our place in it. So the story kicks off not in an empty void, but in a state of darkness and disorder. And God's very first act is to step into that chaos and bring out order, goodness, and just profound beauty. He's carefully separating and arranging everything. You see him, step by step, crafting a world perfectly designed for life to just explode. Land from the water, plants from the earth, light from the darkness. And after each step, he looks at it and he calls it good. It's a place just brimming with potential and abundance. And then, at the absolute peak of this amazing creation, humanity arrives on the scene. But their role, it's probably not what you'd expect. It's not about being servants. It's about being royalty. Now, this term, image bearers, is a really big deal. It means humans were created to be like living statues of God, reflecting his own character, his creativity, his order, his generosity out into the world. They were appointed as his representatives, his co-rulers, tasked with grabbing all that potential and making even more good things flourish. But of course, with that incredible dignity and responsibility comes a choice. And this is it. This is the pivot point on which the entire story turns. And this lays it out perfectly. There are two paths. On one side, humanity could choose to trust God's wisdom, to rely on his definition of what's good and what's not. Or, on the other side, they could seize autonomy for themselves. They could grab the power to define good and evil on their own terms. It's a choice between partnership and independence. And here's the tragic irony of it all. They're nudged on by this mysterious, rebellious creature, the snake, and they choose to seize that autonomy. You see, they want to become like God, but they already were. They were made in his image. So in reaching for more, they actually turned their backs on the very thing that made them so special. Now, right after this disastrous choice, as you see relationships start to crumble, God does something completely unexpected. He doesn't just bring down the hammer of judgment. He makes a promise. He turns to the snake and he says this cryptic line that a descendant of the woman is going to come and deliver a crushing blow to evil's head. But in that same moment, evil is going to strike back at that descendant's heel. And this is the very first whisper of a theme that's going to echo through the entire Bible. The promise of a wounded victor. Think about that. It's an act of pure grace. Humanity just rebelled, and God's first response is to promise a rescue mission, even knowing that victory is going to come at a terrible price. But that promise doesn't just magically erase the consequences. No, that first act of rebellion is like a rock tossed into a pond. It creates this widening ripple effect that starts fracturing human existence on every single level. And you can watch it happen. It starts with Adam and Eve hiding, blaming each other. Then their son, Cain, kills his own brother, Abel, out of jealousy. Then that violence escalates with Cain's descendant, Lamech, who brags about being even more violent. Before you know it, entire kingdoms are being built that fill God's good world with corruption. It's a downward spiral, and it's picking up speed. Things get so bad, the story says God is broken with grief. And to protect his world from being completely ruined, he washes it clean with a great flood. But he saves one guy, Noah, and he gives him the same commission he gave the first Adam. Go out and fill the earth. So here we are. We've got a reset, a second chance. But then our hopes just get crushed because this new Adam, Noah, he fails too. In a garden, this time a vineyard, he gets drunk, and the scene ends just like before with him naked and ashamed. It's a really powerful point. The problem isn't just out there in the world. It's rooted deep inside the human heart. This whole downward spiral finally culminates at the city of Babylon, or Babel. And just look at this comparison. Humanity's original job was to partner with God, to reflect his name and bless the world. But at Babel, they used new technology, the brick, to build a tower to the heavens to make a great name for themselves. It's the Garden Rebellion, but this time on a massive civilizational scale. So, in response to this collective arrogance, God humbles their pride and scatters them. The story that began with God bringing unity and order out of chaos now ends with humanity being scattered in confusion and division. So, this brings us right back to that question we started with. According to this story, we live in a good world that we have made bad. All of us, in our own ways, have chosen to define good and evil for ourselves, and the result is a world of broken relationships, conflict, violence, and ultimately death. But the story doesn't end there, in total darkness, because woven through all of this tragedy is that thread of hope. God is still committed to blessing and rescuing his world, and he's promised that a wounded victor is coming to deal with evil once and for all. And that just leaves us with this huge hanging question. Humanity keeps failing. The reset with Noah didn't fix the problem. The flaw is deep. It's persistent. So what is God going to do now? How is he going to fulfill that promise? And that's the cliffhanger that sets the stage for the entire rest of the story.